Jake, I'm just quickly having a glance. I mean, obviously, it's obviously an important game for you guys, given the positions and the limited number of games left. Winning is a given. What other goals do you hope to get out of this game?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think the first thing is we've got to try and get a win. As you quite rightly say, there are 3 games left. I used the analogy, it's like we've got 3 long par 4s left into the wind, and we've have to try and find a way in which we can make a birdie or 2 so that we can make the cut. So it is obviously. I mean, I think that's the most important thing. I think there's all the other things will obviously fall in place, but I think we need to find a way to get a win tomorrow.
Given the recent results, both in Currie Cup and URC, but specifically URC, what aspects of the game do you think you guys? I don't expect you to give state secrets away, but what aspects have you been working on? Do you think is crucial for tomorrow?
Yeah, Jan, it's it's interesting. I mean, I've been questioned and cross questions about the last couple of weeks, and I'm also, as I said to you, the last press conference, being very philosophical and obviously reflected a lot on where we are. I'm fully aware that if I'd kept the same group of players together, played them week in and week out, that might have been a way in which I could have turned a couple of things around. But I'm not convinced, Jan. So I suppose why I'm jumping around or giving you that sort of answer is what I need to get out of this is I need to keep this group of players together for a while now. And I think the fact that they haven't gelled is also to do with the fact that I've swapped combinations, I've swapped teams. I share with you guys, I think out of my 50-man squad, when I've got the 23 that play every week, I mean, even so last year we played Wednesday, Saturday, and we ended up playing our best rugby at the end of the competition, even though we trained a little and played a lot together. But I wasn't convinced that flogging the same horse was going to get us the same results. Now in hindsight, people would say, well, why didn't you keep the main guys? And I suppose that's easier said than done. So I suppose what I'm trying to say to you is, what do I want to get out of it? I just want to see whether we keep this group together as a cohesive unit in the next couple of weeks, whether we can turn the results around. Because obviously we're not where we want to be. Funny enough, I was listening to an interview by Stuart Lancaster. He started coaching 2016. He started coaching in Ireland, and this group of players, they were Ringrose and a guy like Hugo Keenan were 20 years old, 21 years old. They're now 28, 29 years old. So puts things in perspective. That group of players has gone through European Cup finals, URC finals many times. That's why you grow as a group. So I suppose I sort of thought that by swapping the players around, trying different combinations, resting certain guys, we would get the same return, but we haven't. So what I'm answering, Jan, is we need to get a result, but also need to just see whether I give them a fair crack at being a little bit more cohesive by keeping the same group of players together for a little bit of an extended period.
Ulster, I mean, obviously know what they bring to the party. What part of their game, and you obviously got the Dwayne factor, what part of their game are the most threatening to you?
Yeah, look, I think their home ground record is very strong. I mean, as it is with many of the top sides. I mean, they beat the Stormers this year 35-5. If you consider Stormers were the champions, and they beat them 35-5, and that was obviously a convincing win. So, I mean, they balanced. I think in a lot of ways, they got a couple of Irish players not available, but I think their squad is quite balanced and it's quite settled. And they said they play well at home, and they got a big pack of forwards. They play well with the style of players they have, and they maul well. Their set piece is very strong, and they weren't an easy team to beat even last year away from home. If you consider that they were, I think twice very unlucky to lose to the Stormers in Cape Town, and the Stormers. The reason I'm using Stormers because Stormers went on to win it. So twice I think they got a disallowed try in the last play of one game and got a penalty kicked over in the last play of of another game. So. They're obviously a very good side, Jan. I mean, at home and away, and they're a tough team to beat.
Hi, Jake. Hope you're okay there. It sounds like you've got a bit of a cold.
Yep.
But yeah, just having Kirtley and Kanan back, obviously it's a huge boost. But what do you want from them tomorrow night? I mean, they've been away for a while.
Yeah, it's funny, Ashfaq, again, when I was chatting to Jan just now, I mean, that's part of what my reflection was. I know all teams lose their players and they lose their Springboks. For us, losing Goosen, Marcel, Kanan, Kirtley, Madosh Tamwe, Arno Botha, Walt Steenkamp, probably didn't help us because we didn't have the same equivalent players that could come in and fulfill those roles. So if I use the Stormers example, I think Blommetjies, he's played so well that he's made the coaching staff move Damien back to 12. And it's obviously like for like, whatever Warwick Galant offered them last year, he's sort of offering them this year. And if I'm fair, Ashfaq, we probably didn't. I'm talking about me. Probably didn't replace like for like. So to answer your question, I mean, I'm just expecting them to do what they're good at. They offer us a little bit of X factor. They both, Springboks who are going to play in the back three at the World Cup. They obviously got great skill sets for that kind of style as well. And I think having David Creel on the one wing, Kanan on the other wing, and Kirtley at fullback, I think offers us a nice balance between defensive abilities and obviously attacking abilities.
But obviously, it's a massive test for the pack as well. I thought perhaps the guys were a bit up and down last week against Province. They had some good moments and some not so good moments. Ulster, as you said, they good mauling side, good line-out side, so that's a huge test again.
Yeah, and hopefully, Ashfaq, that lesson or that 80 minutes we had last week is, as I said earlier to Jan, hopefully that's the sort of boost or the sort of cohesion time that we needed together. If it is, then it'll just reaffirm everything I've said to you earlier, that maybe by not keeping them together for a long period of time probably didn't work in our favour. But there's no guarantee that if I had done it the other way that we would be second or third on the table.
Just one more from me, Jack. Kicking game is obviously going to be an important part as well. Have you had a look at the weather yet? Is it typical Belfast?
Yeah, Ashfaq, it's one of those where it looks nice now and then in 5 minutes it rains again. So, everyone who knows that, Ireland, the weather changes quickly, 4 or 5 times a day. So, the prediction so far is that it's going to be a bit of a clear day. But I don't think it's just the weather, it's the style they play, whether it's raining or whether it's not raining, they're very good at it. Ashfaq, they, as I said, got a good set piece, good kicking game, they maul well, and they got a very good home record. So it's not going to be, it's going to be a tough assignment for us anyway.
As a Jake, I hope Belfast is kind, at least in other ways, other than the weather. I was just going to ask, looking at those games that teams played against Province and against the Lions and the Stormers, you've been in the game a long time. It's not as if they played badly. They had the dominance in terms of possession and territory in those games. Scarlet's game as well. It's just, and the finishing was obviously one of the factors there. You guys went 22 quite a bit. How do you turn that around? I know it's an easy thing to say, just work harder.
Yes.
But at some point, those passes need to, I suppose, stick if you're going to get to where you need to be.
Yeah, Brendan, that's a good question. Again, I've been, as I said, reflecting to myself and chatting to people and listening to some podcasts on coaching philosophies in different sports. I think the one thing, I've been doing this job for a long time. This is obviously one of those seasons where, you have more questions than answers. There's no magic potion. There's no magic wand. You've just got to keep going. You've got to, eventually that cycle turns. It's going to happen. We just got to keep believing. I think that's the most important thing. We still have our destiny in our own hands. And Brendan, the one thing that I think it's also, as I said to you guys last week, is it's a competition. The Springboks lost the opening game of the Rugby World Cup, they won the World Cup. Spain lost the opening game of the Football World Cup, they won the Football World Cup. This is a competition. I know it's a long competition, but it's a competition, and the reality is all you got to do is get into the playoffs, and once you're in the playoffs, then it's a 3-game competition again, and we proved that last year by beating the side that was unbeaten. So yeah, I mean, all I'm sort of sharing with you is that no one's won anything. You know, it doesn't matter whether or not we've lost twice to Team A, or we've lost, twice to Team B. I mean, when we get to the playoffs, then it doesn't matter what happened in the last fixture. You've got to win that fixture. So I suppose what I'm saying to you, Brendan, what needs to happen? We just got to keep believing, keep working hard. It's not a cliche. It will turn. It will turn. You know, people. I remember when I first started coaching at the Bulls, Stormers' game got stopped. I think at halftime they were 40 points down. You know, the lightning came. You know, so that's how quickly things change. You know, Stormers went on 2 years later to win the URC. So, I'm fully aware of the fact that we need to have changes. We need to find different combinations. Sometimes as a coach, you make certain decisions, and you learn from those decisions. You expect players to learn, and you expect players to grow, and it's no different for a coach. You know, I've made some calls, and sometimes those calls work, but it's not over. You know, those calls could come back in the last 3 weeks of the competition and work in our favour because we're fresher and we obviously, got certain other things right because we didn't play as much or we've rotated our squad. But only the end of the comp will tell me that, Brendan. And that's one of the things we've got to try and do is get to the end of the comp and then do a proper review of what we think we could have changed or what we could have kept, being in the same position.
Also, just wanted to ask you about it, just in terms of the guys who stayed behind, guys like Wandi, Sheep, those type of guys. I know obviously they get game time in the Currie Cup at that, but was there any other reason, or is it just that you feel that they maybe need to get a bit more confidence up?
Yeah, well, I mean, Brendan, again, one of the things so I've got Tian Lange as a hooker. I could have brought a third choice hooker, and I'm giving example Jan Hendrik Wessels, a third hooker. And then what happens is, then he doesn't play in South Africa. I've got Neil Leroux as a young scrum half from Oakdale. So I left Van der Linde and Keegan Johannes back home to play rugby as well. So some of those decisions are based on the fact that I need guys to get game time. A lot of them have got contracts. I want to see whether or not those contracts need to be renewed, or whether or not that we need to make changes. So yeah, and I'd rather have a squad here that's balanced in terms of those sort of personnel additions that I have. And we've got a really tough Free State. I mean, they got one of the strongest sides. I think the Currie Cup has proved to me and reaffirmed everything I believe in as a coach. Pumas have had the same squad, trained for 5 months. Cheetahs are going to be a difficult side to beat. Griquas, they beat the Sharks the other day. And you've got to ask yourself why. I mean, how do Sharks with a big union lose to Griquas? How do we lose to the Pumas? And how do the Lions lose to the Pumas? I mean, it's 3 massive franchises compared to. And one of those reasons is when you have a squad settled and you have one team to coach, it's much easier than trying to balance 3 teams. So to answer your question, Brendan, I'm doing what I think is right for this season in terms of contract negotiations, in terms of combinations, in terms of game time, in terms of development and growth of certain players. And then what we'll do is when we get to the end of June, when we finish Currie Cup, URC and Heineken Cup, then we will sit down as a group, coaches, board members, and then have a look and see what we could have, as I said, what we could change, what we need to add, what we need to do to grow into next year.